Hello, my name is Marco Cantu. I'm the Delphi product manager at Embarcadero Technologies, and it's a pleasure to join Intensive Delphi 2016 with a keynote focused on the status of the product, Delphi today and tomorrow. This is my contact information, my email and Twitter account. And besides being the product manager for Delphi at Embarcadero Technologies, I'm a longtime Delphi guru and author of 20 plus books on the language, including the latest of the Pascal Handbook. So what we're going to cover in this session is basically I'm trying to see where the product is today and what's coming along, focusing on the change to the roadmap and the development model, with a focus on Berlin and the update 1 and update 2 of RStudio Berlin and Delphi Berlin. And also focusing on the product, the core value proposition, and its directions. So let's start by looking to the roadmap. This is the last published roadmap, from last August, and the full information is on the Embarcadero community site. And being a roadmap has a disclaimer that we don't know if these features will be made available and in which time frame. It's just an indication of what's coming along. There are a couple of things that are relevant for the roadmap more than reading into individual features and line items. Of course, there are broad areas like Linux server and frameworks and language quality and enhancements. But there is also a very significant change, which is the pace of delivery and the delivery model, in which we are going back towards a yearly release cycle from a 6-month release cycle that we used in the last few years. The plan is to inject updates with new features within the product cycle, and that's something we have just started doing. The difference is that if we go to a yearly release cycle with updates, your DCU, BPL, third-party components will remain compatible within the entire cycle. The updates might require full install, but they are DCU compatible. The other reason, there are many reasons that make this possible. One is certainly the fact that our customers have been asking us to go back to a yearly cycle because of the issue with third-party components and the difficulty in migrating projects from version to version. And third-party component vendors have also been asking us to go back to this model. Now, there was a reason that was difficult because we need to keep moving the product and keep delivering support for new operating systems and new features within the yearly cycle. But now that all customers are under update subscription, there are no more financial, fiscal, or other reasons preventing us to deliver any feature that we deem appropriate in an update. So in practical terms, this means we released update 1 in September. We are releasing update 2 in November, and the next major release is still a few months away. Because again, we are moving from a 6-month release cycle to a yearly release cycle with significant updates, and updates have features. We deliver the native iOS grid for FIREMONKEY in update 1. That was a main addition for those using the iOS platform. We are delivering a new VCL calendar control, actually 2 controls with the same calendar model, part of the new WinRT UI, and support for deployment through the Windows Desktop Bridge and the creation of Apex packages right from the Delphi IDE, as we'll see in a second. Also adding quick edit designers and new styles. So there is actually a lot coming along in terms of features and capabilities in update 2. Of course, we're also focused in building the next version of the product, which will have many different features, but the most relevant one is certainly being a Delphi compiler and a C++ compiler for Linux 64-bit platforms. This will include all server-side technologies from core runtime library, database access, client and server web technologies, FARDAC, JSON, XML processing, and many other features. It will not include, at least in the first release, a FireMonkey, VCL, or any other sort of UI toolkit. We don't really want to focus on client-side Linux development, client-side Linux being extremely small in terms of customer adoption and company adoption. The focus is squarely on server-side, whether it's utilities that run in the background, or standalone web services or other type of socket applications, or when it's Apache integrated modules deployed to Linux. There will be, again, more in this release than the Linux compiler, but that's clearly the main target. So if that's the change in the roadmap, and these are the plans, where the product is today, and where is the technology focus, I could start with a marketing view of the product. This is the two-line description that we refer to, the fastest way to build cross-platform native applications with cloud services and IoT connectivity. However, rather than going through this item in this model and order, I'd rather switch to a more technical view of the product, highlighting 5 pillars of the Delphi model and the Delphi world. Fantastic language, extensive runtime library with platform integration, great UI, either VCL or FireMonkey, first-class database support, and web connectivity. So let's start with the first one, which is the language. Delphi has a great modern object-oriented programming language. Even if you hear people mentioning it's an old language, it's not by any count. Delphi was started in 95, the year many other languages came along, from Java to JavaScript. But it evolved significantly beyond the RAD and pure object-oriented model, adding generics, closures, reflection, attributes, and features that don't just extend the language, but provide completely new models in terms of development approach and coding style. It has one of the fastest compilers available, now supporting larger projects and faster compilation of code that uses generics. The fast compiler has a lot of advantages. You can have a very simple build, debug cycle, but still going through compiled code. And it's actually plurals, compilers, because we're not shipping one compiler, actually shipping a large family of compilers for 32 and 64-bit on 4 different operating systems, plus the simulator, which is kind of a target in its own. There are language features under consideration, because we love the Delphi language, but of course we always want more features. Nullable types is one of the top priorities, and that is likely going to come along with custom record initializers and finalizers for technical reasons. Nullable types is the ability to have native type that is definable as having no value, like it happens on JSON or databases, where rather than having a value set to 0 or some predefined special value, you clearly mark it as nullable. Nullable has effect on arithmetic and a lot of operations, so it's really, to have full implementation, needs to be done deeply into the compiler. We also plan a few syntax enhancements, just try to make life easier to developers. Of course, there is another big area of language / compiler evolution, which is targeting new platforms, starting with Linux Intel 64-bit, but we'll also consider for the future post-GODZILLA, other ARM targets, and other 64-bit platforms. The other key element of the technology is VCL. If you're focused on Windows development, that remains the best library you can use with largest backwards compatibility, but best support for today's and coming technologies. VCL had wonderful wrapping for the plain Windows API and COM libraries, and now comes with great integration of the WinRT subsystem that's new in Delphi in Windows 10. We offer this deep WinRT integration, but we also have ready-to-use WinRT services components. We offer a lot of styling to modernize existing application without a rewrite with a new system. And also tend to offer significant compatibility between Windows 7 and Windows 10, so your code would run on both platforms. And that might seem obvious, but it's actually not, because if you embrace the Microsoft WinRT model, then your applications will exclusively run on WinRT and require mostly a very significant rewrite, even if you're using recent Microsoft technologies. So why focusing on Windows 10? Why is on Windows 7 enough? Well, because Windows 10 is growing fast. It has a distinct look and feel that you should try to embrace, and has specific features that are really worth supporting. And I'll get specifically to the deployment, because that's one key element, one key advantage of Windows 10 compared to past versions. So which are some of the directions for the VCL? Well, basically one of the points is improving on core controls that provide us with WinRT look and feel, but with no dependency of the new subsystem, so your applications work on Windows 7. We deliver 5 of these controls in 10 Seattle, and now adding 1 in update 2 of Berlin. We're also improving the IDE designers and trying to keep focused on quality. This is the new VCL control, and I'll do a short demo later. The other thing that's critical is the Windows Store support. Microsoft has introduced this Windows Desktop Bridge as part of the Windows 10 anniversary update in summer 2016. And through this Desktop Bridge technology, they are also opening up the store as a way to distribute and deploy applications in an ad hoc, so a direct or enterprise-based distribution, or through the physical store. What you are building with the Desktop Bridge technology is an Apex package, which is type of Universal Windows Platform package for Microsoft. What we are doing at the IDE level is having integrated support for the Windows 10 store. So you can just pick some standard settings for the application and pick a application store configuration compared to the normal or debug deployment. That's very similar to what we're doing for the mobile platforms and fully integrated into the IDE. The other designer feature we're adding is called Quick Edits. It's new designers that really simplify standard basic ways to interact with forms and controls, create the basic layout of new forms by making some of the most common operations faster than in the past. This includes different things. There is a quick design for forms. There is a simple way to add common controls and components. And there is an editor that is available for each control with fast way to go and change the name, the caption, and modify alignment, layout, and color if available. Color is not available for a button. So again, trying to simplify and make it fast to do extremely common operations rather than having to reach multiple entries of the object inspector. Before we go to FireMonkey and the cross-platform development, let me do a short demo of the Update 2 support for Calendar and the Desktop Bridge. So this is a new VCL application. I'm going to pick the Calendar view It's a very nice interactive calendar with a lot of settings and configurations. You can determine the first day of the week. You can customize and even do custom painting of the individual cells. Let me run the application because that's where you get a good feeling of the behavior, the scrolling between month and month, the navigation to the year view, and scrolling among years, jumping to the decade view, and then back to a given date of a given year. The other feature that's available, as I mentioned, is the fact that there's a new target platform, application store, and through some project options that you get set by default, including logos and other version information, what you can do is really directly and very simply target the Apex format and do a project deployment to that format. You need to provide a certificate for ad hoc distribution or specific entries for the store application identity. In the project options, you need to make sure you have your certificate file properly configured in the provisioning page, and then you can just do project deploy, and the system is going to create an Apex package for you. And this is the package you can install on a Windows 10 Anniversary Edition machine once this certificate is known to the target computer. Or alternatively, you can create a store account and publish to the store. As I mentioned, there are several things you can do in terms of customizing the calendar. It has a lot of different features, range, selections, colors. One thing I wanted to cover here is the ability to do custom drawing of a day item. And here you receive calendar view information and draw params. To do custom drawing of the cells, we need to use some date utils to determine the day of the week of the current date. So we can pick the calendar view info, and one of the information is the date of the current cell being painted. And so we can pick the day of week function and say if that's the first day of the week. What we want to do is to modify the drawing parameters so that the foreground color of the foreground element is actually red. So we want to paint the Sundays in red. Let's run this, and you can see this is the corresponding output regardless of the year. There are given days that are printed in red, and there are many other elements, graphical elements you can customize in the grid. So having seen some of these new Windows features, let me focus a little on cross-platform native development with FireMonkey. Again, as I mentioned, we have compilers for 4 different operating systems, different CPU families, and both 32-bit and 64-bit targets. Compiling code for these platforms offers maximum performance and the best security model. And this is achieved through the compilers, through the runtime library, which is extensively binds to the native platforms, and through the FireMonkey Visual Component Library that's focused on creating the user interface only once and customize it at design time with integrated viewers or previewing on device, and then deploying the same UI on different platforms and different form factors. Both through styling or platform components, the FireMonkey library really lets you target mobile and desktop with a single UI model. The cross-platform library as I mentioned, include full runtime integration with the operating systems, but also common services like memory management, file system threading, exceptions, data access, XML, JSON, HTTP processing, REST clients, cloud operations, and many other core features that are part of all platforms. The FireMonkey architecture is critical. The rendering architecture allows you to use the same controls with the same features at design time and runtime, but pick a styled approach where the control is rendered by FireMonkey with the GPU-driven rendering styling platform, or is rendered by instantiating the physical operating system control, and rendering happens through the control itself, providing the best integration and platform look and feel. This is available for iOS and Windows. We are plan extending Z-order and native controls to the Android platform in the future, and keep focusing on a good mix and good balance of styled and platform controls going forward. The other big focus of FireMonkey is to keep covering new features in mobile platforms, new enhancements of the platforms, and improving on the quality and integration of the desktop support. Windows 10 styles for FireMonkey and VCL are part of this evolution, and they're also part of Update 2. Last, I want to focus on our outstanding enterprise focus, centered around FireDAC, our optimized universal database access that lets you hook to all major enterprise databases and support NoSQL databases like MongoDB. This is part of the enterprise service architecture that you can create by yourself or leveraging RAD server as a way to host REST APIs that allow easy reach of different type of clients, mobile, desktop, Delphi, or standard technologies, JavaScript, whatever else you want to use on the client side, with a solid enterprise service foundation, again, based around RAD server or based around custom hosted and custom defined APIs. Most of the improvements in this area will come from the Linux integration. Linux is critical for deployment for all types of applications. It's critical for cloud deployment, and is increasingly important for business and enterprise level services. So we plan hosting DataSnap and hosting RAD server on Linux along with FireDAC database access. Let me finish with 2 words on RAD server before we wrap up with the final part. RAD server is the perfect ready-to-use backend for RAD Studio apps. You can build your own solution using either libraries, or you can adopt a ready-to-use solution that allows you to publish your REST endpoints, integrating with FireDAC or cloud or backend as a service provider middleware, and adding ready-to-use application service like user management, analytics, and even a beacon fence location of customers within indoor locations. With RAD server, you can easily create REST endpoints, integrate with your data wherever it lives and devices, add application services, add users and other features that are readily available as part of the infrastructure, deploy on your private system or on a cloud, track and manage users and analyze the actual usage of the system, and build easily Delphi and C++ Builder clients, or leverage support of an open platform for building JavaScript clients or clients with other technologies. So if this is the roundup of the features and product directions, let me do a recap. Why Delphi? Because rapid application development means faster development without giving up an extremely solid and robust architecture. Delphi delivers faster development across desktop and mobile and across many different backends without tying you to one specific solution or platform in terms of cloud or database, because we don't own or we don't push you towards a specific solution, but give you the freedom to use a product or whatever architecture you prefer. At a glance, Berlin added a new installer, new native libraries, IoT, technology, quality, developer productivity, and enterprise strong data and cloud access. And Update 1 and Update 2 have been pushing in the same direction along the same lines. Finally, I want to cover one concern that we have been hearing and we think it's extremely important for the product, that is making it more available to more people to learn it, understand it, experiment with it, and be ready to join companies that need Delphi developers, or just keep using it for non-professional projects. There are multiple different initiatives that are being done with the goal of increasing the number of active Delphi developers. One is a new academic initiative. The idea is that schools and universities can ask for licenses of Delphi for the labs, but also to be given individually to students for the school year completely for free. There was in the past a way to buy heavily discounted copies, but this is an initiative to give RadStudio Professional with mobile support to schools and universities. Just if you know anyone who's interested, suggest them to ask their local sales or the Embarcadero partner in the country. The other initiative is been discounting the starter edition 100%. That is making it available for free to non-professionals. That's the limitation that starter has. So they can experiment with the Delphi Win32 with both VCL and FireMonkey and a load of great features, enough to run a miniature airport, as someone mentioned recently, in this package. So this is a great way to get back to Delphi or to start using the product for your non-professional work, and then anytime migrate and upgrade to professional or enterprise editions. We're also doing new marketing initiatives. For example, the bootcamp that was done early September that had a tremendous success, or again, spreading out the product through the starter edition. So always interested in your feedback and new ideas, but there is a lot of activity around increasing the number of active developers and specifically targeting younger generations. Thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach me at marco.cantu@embarcadero.com or follow my Marco Cantu Twitter account for any more information about the product.